There are some perks to being born later than the millennials. Didn't have to listen to our parents constantly tell us. Back in my day, we didn't have no Wi-Fi, so we had to walk uphill both ways in the snow just to get to school. Not only that, but we've also seen firsthand how technology has changed the way we live, work, and play. And as digital natives, we've grown up alongside the internet, social media, online shopping, and streaming services. But there's one thing we may have missed out on. Remember the early 2010s when the iPad first came out and people were lining up to buy the latest iPhone model? During that time, there was another tech craze happening, Bitcoin. Bitcoin is one of those words you've probably heard everywhere on the news, on TikTok, maybe even from that one friend who can't stop talking about crypto. But what exactly is Bitcoin, and is it still worth investing in today? Let's break it down in simple terms. Think of Bitcoin as digital money that isn't controlled by any bank or government. Instead, it runs on something called blockchain, which is basically a giant digital ledger that records every transaction. No middleman, no central authority, just a peer-to-peer system that people all around the world trust because it's transparent and nearly impossible to hack. So what makes Bitcoin different from traditional currency? Well, unlike dollars or euros, there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins. And once that cap is reached, no more can be created. And while your local bank might keep track of your savings or checking account, Bitcoin transactions are recorded publicly on the blockchain, which means everyone can see your spending habits. Don't worry, though. Your personal details, like your name or address, aren't attached to these transactions, just the amount and the 2 Bitcoin addresses involved. With Bitcoin, you're essentially trading numbers. The idea behind this transparency is that it prevents fraud and keeps the system honest. So where does all of this Bitcoin come from? Every Bitcoin is earned through a process called mining. Miners are basically computers that perform complex calculations to verify and add new transactions to the blockchain. When they successfully validate a group of transactions, they get rewarded with some Bitcoin of their own. Now, why would anyone want to use this strange digital currency? Well, for starters, it offers a decentralized alternative to traditional banking. So if you live in a country with high inflation or unstable currency, Bitcoin might seem like a safer bet. Plus, Bitcoin transactions are typically processed faster than bank transfers, especially if you're moving money across borders. And here's another perk. There are no chargebacks. Unlike credit card companies, Bitcoin doesn't offer refunds. So if you send Bitcoin to someone, there's no getting it back if they decide to ghost you after you pay for that vintage Pokemon card. And finally, there's a certain thrill that comes with investing in crypto. Just think about the headlines we've all seen. Man buys $100 worth of Bitcoin in 2011, checks his portfolio 7 years later to find he's a millionaire. It's stories like this that fuel the hype around Bitcoin and attract new investors. Now that we know the basics, let's talk about why Bitcoin became such a big deal. Back in 2009, when it was first created, 1 Bitcoin was basically worthless. Fast forward a few years and suddenly people who bought early became millionaires. That hype is what pushed Bitcoin into the mainstream, and since then, it's been called both the future of money and the biggest bubble ever. So what's the truth? Before we dive into the pros and cons of Bitcoin, let's talk about something no one can deny: its volatility. The price of Bitcoin is like a roller coaster ride, and not the relaxing kind at an amusement park, but the one that drops you upside down and makes you question your life choices. In the past decade, the price of Bitcoin has gone up and down faster than you can say cryptocurrency. And that's not for everyone, especially if you're planning on buying a house or a new car anytime soon. You wouldn't put your life savings into a stock that could drop to zero overnight, right? Well, Bitcoin can do that and often does. On the other hand, this volatility is exactly what attracts many investors. Take Elon Musk, for example. He sent shockwaves when he said Tesla would accept Bitcoin for purchases, driving up its price. Then he later decided to ditch Bitcoin over its environmental impact, causing its value to plummet. This roller coaster ride can be thrilling, but it also shows how risky Bitcoin is. And speaking of risk, let's talk about security. Bitcoin wallets are like bank accounts, but instead of keeping your cash in a physical bank, your Bitcoin is stored in a digital wallet. These wallets can be hot, meaning they're connected to the internet, or cold, meaning they're offline. But whether hot or cold, you need to protect your Bitcoin wallet with the same vigilance you'd use for your passwords. Hackers love targeting cryptocurrency, and if you lose your wallet's private keys, there's no way to recover them. If you lose your keys, you lose your Bitcoin, period. All right, now let's talk about the elephant in the room: regulation. Governments around the world are still playing catch up with Bitcoin. So countries like El Salvador have embraced it, making it legal tender, while others have banned it altogether. In most places, though, Bitcoin is legal, but not without restrictions. Anti-money laundering and know your customer rules apply, so exchanges need to verify your identity before you can buy or sell. This might seem like a hassle, but it does help prevent illicit activities. So while Bitcoin offers a decentralized system, it's not entirely free from oversight. Finally, let's discuss fees. Every Bitcoin transaction incurs a fee, and these can vary depending on the network congestion. During peak times, these fees can eat into your profits, so you need to factor them in when deciding whether to buy, sell, or hold. So is Bitcoin still worth investing in? Well, that's like asking if it's worth gambling at the roulette table. There's always the possibility of winning big, but it's a risky game, and that's what Bitcoin is all about: risk. You could earn substantial profits, but you could also lose everything. It's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. So if you're considering Bitcoin, remember these key points. First, don't invest more than you can afford to lose. Treat it like putting money on red at the roulette table. Exciting, but not essential. Second, diversify your portfolio. Don't put all your eggs in the Bitcoin basket. Spread your investments around to reduce your risk. And third, educate yourself. Understand how Bitcoin works, its potential benefits and risks before diving in. There are plenty of resources online to help you learn the ropes. Finally, consider your investment timeline. Are you looking for short-term gains or long-term growth? Bitcoin's volatility makes it a risky short-term bet, but its long-term potential is still being debated. And if you're looking for something less volatile, you might want to consider index funds or ETFs. They won't give you the same thrill as Bitcoin, but they're a lot less risky. Ultimately, the decision to invest in Bitcoin is a personal one. It's a higher risk, higher reward option that's not for everyone. If you're interested, make sure you do your homework. Invest responsibly and keep a close eye on your portfolio. Who knows? You might just hit it big. That's all for today, folks. Thanks for watching. And if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. Till next time, happy investing.